right. So Murphy has shown up in full force this morning, having a lot of fun with us. I'd like to welcome you all to the Vet S.O.S podcast, brought to you by the Who You Know Network. Remember, don't drown in the sea of transition. Grab the Vet S.O.S lifeline. As always, I'm here with my partner, Mark. We're getting ready for hopefully a great show. We've definitely been having some communication issues this morning, so we'll see who all we can actually get on today. We'll be starting the day off with Matt. We're supposed to have Bruce Thompson coming in, Charlie Hall, Kimberly Hessler, and Jennifer Burks as well. How you doing today, Mark?
Hey, doing good. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Super excited to drop some knowledge bombs on everybody. Shout out to all the audience, Seth Harrison, Mood Malik. Welcome. Thank you for joining. We have got a stellar lineup today. And yes, thank you for bearing with us and waiting patiently as we went live. We also want to make sure that we talk about pairing, because you can also share this knowledge, share this show with your audience and your network. So special thank you to everyone who's been pairing their channels. If you'd like to learn how to do that, how to live stream this show as an original piece of content to your channel, put hashtag pairing in the comments and we'll send you a DM and show you the instructions or get you the instructions for the next episode.
Absolutely. So let's jump right into it, because I know we've already run a little late on time. So we're going to start here today with Matt Wood. Appreciate you joining us today. Matt works with HR directors, C-suite executives, hiring managers, and recruiters to help them understand the economic benefit of hiring from the veteran and military spouse communities and how to gain a competitive advantage in the marketplace from doing so. He can also do the same for your company. He started off out of the military with Disney and has since moved into starting his own consulting firm, Suiting Green Consulting, to help with that transition piece. Matt, how are you doing today?
It's another beautiful day here in Central Florida.
Yes, indeed. Well, thanks for joining us. And you were just actually on our parent network show, the Who You Know show, with Trevor Houston and I, and just have a really compelling message. You guys are doing some great work helping people in their transition and helping corporate America understand what it takes to get people transitioned and to hire some really valuable talent. So thank you for sharing with us there too. But we want to extend this conversation into the Vet SOS show because it is super impactful. One of the things that we talked about on the show was, what's going on with your initiatives as far as your company. But we also talked about your title, which is CHRO, perhaps, right? So can you tell us what that is?
Sure. I'm the chief headache producer for Suiting Green, along with being the founder. My way of wanted to get a conversation started, because people, I was like, what does that mean? You hand out Motrin, they can eat and drink water? No. What I do is I work with companies to help reduce hiring from the military community, because there's so many different ways to go about doing it. And that military friendly flag, but they don't have a good intent on, or they don't intent behind why they're doing that. And so that's where I come in and say, okay, well, let's look at what your metrics that you're using. Do you have, what are your capability milestones when it comes to how effective your initiative is? And let's build on that so that you actually have that aren't just, hey, we're here, and we're a block check for the company, but we feel appreciated, we're engaged, we're not underemployed, and we have potential in roles with increased responsibility.
And that is an awesome mission. I'm really curious, what made you do that? What made you get into doing that? What gaps did you see that you really felt you had to start your Suiting Green Consulting?
Well, so there is that huge knowledge gap between the military community and corporate America. With the military community, a lot of times we have trouble explaining what it is that leave the military. So if, for example, as an infantry platoon that means nothing to somebody on the outside other than, oh yeah, you were in the infantry, so you can shoot things and or whatever. There's nobody out in the civilian world that is going to really need some skill set other than maybe a SWAT team or something. But military, or when the civilian community looks at it, they see that veteran title and they're like, oh, these violent PTSD, they're going to have medical issues from them. So, or they hire them with the intent of, hey, we're going to hire these veterans to be, they've got leadership skills. Meanwhile, what they've hired is some before who has never really been in a leadership, only did 4 years role, and that person is not doing very well for the company. And so the company's like, well, they succeed, they're veteran, they're leaders. So bridging that knowledge gap and trying to show our transferable skills, just because somebody was maybe a sniper, that's not, or they were a drill sergeant, well, that's not who they are for their entire career. They have all these other skills that are hard to teach in any walk, but they're even harder to find in the corporate world, because they to develop that.
I think you're.
Oh yeah,
muted.
sorry. Well, what you're saying resonates with me because, I didn't retire from the military. I got out. I did my 4 years, right? Active and inactive reserve. But, one of the things that I guess in the previous show too, we had talked about this, leadership skills, they can be taught, but I think there are some also natural leadership qualities that come out through the training. So even those that, let's say, aren't retiring from the military, right? They haven't done 20 plus years. Maybe they've done 10, maybe they've done 8 or 4, right?
Right.
That's something that we didn't talk about in the last show. And I guess my question is, when those people are exiting, right, and they're going through TAP, they're going through some of these programs, some of the VSOs, like yours, for example, that are out there, and they're engaging with these corporate entities. The corporate entities also need to understand that there are people at different levels in the military too, right? And it doesn't mean that they can't be leaders, but is that something that you're also engaged in as far as teaching and training the corporate entities on how to identify that and then leverage where someone is?
Yeah, it is being their Rosetta Stone when it comes to how they're looking at the military community. If you can look at somebody and say, all right, well, like yourself, 4 years, you've had team building and team leadership experience, a ton of, compared to somebody that maybe did 20 years, but there's still that ability. Project management works. You've been a part of that. So understanding, and you've had to train the new one, the new kids come to work, a radio or a 50 cal or, piece of equipment may be. So you've done the training and development and kind of helping those, all right, hey, veteran resume. Depending on the length of service, we know what experience they may have with some of these softer skills, the leadership, the team building, the program management stuff. But those are all skills that they come with. They were trainable, which is the other big thing. Is a lot of companies are like, well, be able to train them to do this and deal with this technology or whatever it may be. We don't come into the military knowing how to be an in-flight missile repairer, and we spend a lot of time learning how to do that and learning how to fill up an organization. We go through an extensive onboarding period, which, depending on your brand, from 10 to 20 weeks. But that's basic training. That's boot camp. We're taking brand new people that know nothing about it, and we're sending them through this extensive onboarding to learn our culture. Very basic things is relates to their jobs, showing companies that, hey, yeah, that's what you're getting when you get these people. They may not know how you're, the specific nuances of your company, but you can train them to do that. Look at them as people with soft skills that you need. You hire them based on their character, as opposed to just hiring, hey, this is what's on a one or two pieces of paper as a resume. It's, oh, now we're looking, and we can hire them and train them for the specific skills that we need that are, line of business. Because
right.
I'm using Disney as an example, nobody knows how to be Mickey, but if you hire somebody, you can train them to be Mickey Mouse if you need to. And as I've just ruined by saying that, but that's really what it is, a very basic.
Yeah.
That's a great point. And I think with the military, especially seniors, a lot of people believe that your rank automatically gets you something. Whereas in reality, we have the wealth of experience. So, retirees looking at 20 plus years of experience in multiple fields, because it's not just your job, but you also have your additional duties and all those good things that you got to do, not to mention the different units you were in. So I love what you're doing, though, taking that and showing that, hey, they have a certain set of skills. They don't know everything, but they're trainable. That's one thing you can say about the military. For the most part, most of us are pretty trainable.
Yeah, exactly. We're breaking down the Hollywood stereotypes that people associate with is, okay, you're going to bark orders at everybody. You're going to want to come in and take jobs. I'm like, no, we don't need to barking orders. Something's gone really wrong in the military. And training or boot camp, you're not seeing that. That's like the only where you're going to see that kind of environment where it's, absolutely direct 100% of the time. You get beyond that and explaining that it's a live job, essentially. Yes, you're going to be up a little bit before 9, like the old commercials. We do more before 9 a.m. But, it does become a regular job. You're doing things that need to be on time or ahead of time, and essentially staying within your may not be a monetary budget, but you're staying within the budget of the time, the equipment that you need to have to accomplish your tasks.
Yeah. Now,
great point.
You were you're in the Army, right? You got out, and I know the backstory. You got into Disney actually almost like a dare, right? It was almost kind of like a challenge from your wife. So we're at Disney, but let's talk about after that, right? Because now you're transitioning from the military to Disney, and I don't know how often that happens, so maybe you can speak to that as well. But then transitioning from Disney to your next, right? I think it was an Empower employee. What brought that on, and what was that like?
So the transition was interesting. I mean, I left military career and that support network that and I went to work for a company where I didn't have any of that. I was in which okay, fine, I can work on my own, but there was no camaraderie. There was a lot of times where I'm trying to understand how to do something to be more effective. I had somebody telling me, well, your values and ethics are not going to work. We have to adjust that in such a way that, to me, there's no way I can do that. I was adamant that I was, these are 20 plus years. I'm not changing that just so I can sell more timeshare something. But then leaving Disney, which, hey, we're doing a cutback. We're cutting 28,000 people. And, oh, yeah, you're the most junior person on your team. So making that adjustment was, okay, fine. I got to do that. I was actually in a pretty solid place where making that transition wasn't a big deal. So I looked at, what are my options? What can I do? I applied for a number of jobs. I was doing it. And I just said, well, hey, I talked with my neighbor who's retired, that there's that knowledge gap, which led me to the suiting green. And so I was going through the process of doing that, and had somebody reach out to me and offer me an opportunity to come work for them. I said, okay, well, this sounds decent. You're similar missions, do that. So took suiting green, put it on a shelf, and went to go work in this other. I developed a lot of stuff there, and then in October, got the message, hey, I'm taking the company in a different direction. Best of luck to you in the future. And it was like, whoa, okay. No, nothing, no exit interviews, and I was like, okay, well, it's time to pull suiting green back out of the closet and get to work. Doing that, Disney called me and said, hey, we want you to come back. I said, okay, for a bit. I need to kind of get my feet back under myself. Went back in November, back to the same job I was doing essentially, and realized that the growth potential wasn't there. I wasn't feeling challenged. I was like, I can't keep doing this. I was trying to rebuild, launched, and I hit a point where I said, okay, yeah, pretty easy to say goodbye to Disney, and I gave them my notice, and then so April of this year is when I essentially relaunched Suiting Green, and have been overdrive getting that back up and going, and reaching out, making a lot more connections, a lot more last year when I was just really understanding what it was I wanted to do and trying to figure.
Yeah. So as you're getting Suiting Green going, you're making that another transition at that point. Tell us, did you leverage any of the resources out there for veterans along the way? I mean, obviously you probably had some transition. You went through TAP through that transition out of the Army, but from then, or during that point, did you use any other resources? Are there any other VSOs?
Yeah, I did. Even for Benning, the TAP program was block. I was fortunate that at the time my wife was working for an organization, which I think one of your future guests, Eric Brew, had worked for a while as well. I connected with them. They're the ones that really set me on the right path, getting my resume up, my networking skills up, and telling me, hey, you really have to do your. I went through that. It made a huge difference for me as far as my transition out of the Army and into whatever was next. Along the way, I've run them here in Florida. They have the Camaraderie Foundation. I went through their mentor leadership program. It really develops your networking skills, teaches you more stuff to help you better prepare and move through your transition. And then just recently, a friend of mine, Dr. Mariah, connected me, or we connected through the Veteran Entrepreneurship Initiative here in Florida, which is a great resource for anybody wanting to get into entrepreneurship. And then, so in talking a program where she is doing the mental aspects of the transition. And so I went through kind of her pilot program to understand what kind of help her flesh that out a little bit more. And it was a huge resource for me, because I had to go back through that mental Rolodex of, hey, these are things that I went through. And then, understanding the whole grieving and, the comparisons to it being Stockholm syndrome once you get out, and however you want to look at that. Because that's, really that's what it is. You're like, oh, the military loves me, treat you like crap every now and then, but they love me. And finally you hit that point like, I gotta leave. And you're like, well, but they really loved me. They would take me back. No, they won't take me back.
Yeah.
And it's, when you hit that point, you're like, holy crap, they won't take me back. I did so much for them. Yeah, they don't care.
And posted your job before you even left.
Yeah.
So,
oh yeah.
So we're coming down here to the end a little bit here. Like, we started the day with a lot of comms issues, but I think we're off and running now, which is great. So how can people find Suiting Green and also get involved with Suiting Green? Like, what kind of help are you looking for, or could you use?
So obviously I see you guys scrolling. The easiest way to reach out to me, but also suitinggreen.com is the reach out to me through there as well. People I'm trying to reach out to are those HR directors within companies that have a military initiative, friendly, and let me talk to them and find out what that actually means, and intention is behind that, and see if we can actually turn that from being military friendly into military ready, or effective in how they're doing what they're doing.
Yeah, that's important. I mean, the networking piece is super important, right? The referral piece. I mean, as you're working with companies and you're helping them engage, some of the value that the veterans that are hiring, right, that you're providing should be able to be paid forward. And so I think that if you guys can, listener audience and viewer audience, make sure that you connect with Matt, because he may be able to help you, right, identify some target companies that he's working with that are proactively looking at hiring and retaining veterans. So that's number one. And if that's the case, then you can also be a referral source too to the other places that you're applying to. Network with Matt, let him know, because if you're running into some challenges at a company trying to get in and you think it's maybe related to your veteran status, obviously that's right up Matt's alley. So make sure that you connect with him.
Yeah. Or if you're in a company that does employee resource group, maybe they've got one in name only, kind of like Disney. Let me know. That's another thing that I work with, and I can help really build those. You've got a solid employee resource group that's an advocate for you, and that can, really that military community, whether it's veterans or military spouses.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I want to thank you so much for joining us this morning, Matt. Thanks for hanging in there and working through the issues we had, and for the great information you're sharing with everybody. I think it's a great organization that transitioning service members and veterans can definitely get a lot out of. So hopefully you'll have some people reach out to you after this and point them in the right direction, get them going to where they need to go.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it, guys. This is awesome. I always love being able to talk to other great folks.
Yeah, thanks for sharing the word and spreading the love.
All right. Thank you again, Matt. And we'll be right back with our next guest.